Danny Boyle, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Pete. Very nice to be here.
We just saw a scene from Slumdog Millionaire, and you know, this is the thing. You don't have Brad Pitt in it. You know, there's no major star in it at all, which then begs the question, and everybody's saying to you, Danny, what's this movie about?
Well, I think it does have a big star in it, a huge star, which is Mumbai, as was Bombay, now called Mumbai. And it's a bit like New York, really. It sort of contends, I think, with New York for the title of the maximum city on our planet. And it's an enormous presence in the film. But what's it about? It's about a kid, a slum kid who comes from one of the slums in Mumbai, very poor kid, goes on the biggest game show in the world. And it's in India, it's huge, that game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Jamal Malik, you're absolutely right!
And he goes all the way and wins the top prize, which has never been won, ever. And the authorities assume that he's cheated, that there's a microchip hidden in his skin, there's a coughing accomplice in the audience, that, you know, and they torture him to try and find out, which is a fairly regular occurrence there as well in Mumbai. That goes on all the time as well. And he hasn't. And in fact, not only has he won the show, he's kind of hijacked the show for his own purposes. He has another agenda, which is why he's on the show. And he's determined to stay on the show as long as possible. Not necessarily to win the money, but to find someone.
I'm assuming, you know, not being on the inside of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire here in the United States, that our police don't torture the contestants. But I don't know, you know, maybe that's the way it works.
So we applied for permission, because when you involve the police, you've got to apply for permission to the government. And we showed them that scene. And we were expecting to have to cut the scene completely. And they wrote back and said the torture scene is fine, provided nobody above the rank of inspector is involved. And that was it.
I see, it's okay.
And we got that in paper. It's like you think, I see, okay, that's fine, thank you. So that was it, and you're allowed to. And the crew said, yeah, okay, if it's anything more than a traffic offence, you might get knocked about a little bit with a lovely police force in Mumbai.
You did a kind of guerrilla filmmaking this time, right? This isn't you dragging in giant 2-ton cameras and doing it. This is seat of your pants shooting in Mumbai. So tell us a little about that.
It was obvious, really, when you got there that was the only way you could shoot. And in fact, Bollywood avoids the city. They shoot in the studios the whole time, partly because the stars are so famous it will be unmanageable, but also because they make a very different kind of film. I wanted to make something. I thought the only chance as a Westerner going in, the only chance of making anything even partially realistic would be to try and shoot it from the inside, subjectively. So I wanted a very flexible system. We took a small crew. We supplemented it, you know, with about 10 people. The rest of the crew were Bollywood, who could help us to shoot in the city. And we developed these digital cameras. It's a prototype camera. It's very small, and it allows you to, it's very dynamic, allows you to capture some of the city. Because you've got to land running, really. Because if you stand still in that city, it just passes you by. You've got to run to keep up, and then you get the chance, the privilege, to set your story in that city somewhere. And that's what we tried to do.
Well, are you doing this with the permission to shoot in the city, or are you just sneaking around doing this to get what you're
kind of mixture, to be absolutely honest. A mixture.
I have some permission here, but over here I don't have any.
And they don't necessarily correlate with what you shoot anyway, and it's a kind of, it's an infinite. There's this thing they have in India, which is this head wobble, which means yes and no, and it means everything in between. And it's the way you answer.
Head wobble. It's like bobbleheading.
It's like
this.
It's like that.
Okay,
they go.
Great.
You say, and it can mean yes, or it can mean no, and it can mean everything in between. So the way you would answer a question like that, well, did you have permission or not, would be to go like that, which means yes, no, and everything in between.
So did anybody ever try to kick you out of any of the play? I mean, the Taj Mahal is sort of visible there. But it looks like it's really done on the fly.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
You'd be experienced enough to see that it's cobbled together that from what footage we could get. And we sent back a crew later who hadn't been with us the first time, and they pretended to be a German documentary crew going back to shoot a documentary about the Taj, because we just needed a few shots to cobble our sequence together. And it was like that. But again, the whole attitude was throughout, I was determined that we weren't going to despair about any of those issues at all. I thought we'll embrace everything and just go with it. That's what it's like. That's what we've got. We're lucky to be there. Let's just channel our story through what we get and not worry about that stuff we don't get. And the truth is, if you go with it, the place just comes back to you tenfold beyond what you could have ever hoped for.
So we should talk about the two actors that you have cast for this love story. There's more than two actors for sure, but just talk a little about how you found the two of them.
Well, Frida, Frida Pinto, who plays Latika, I saw her on this tape, and I had this feeling. I mean, and it isn't just about her beauty, because I saw a lot of very beautiful girls there, and very, very talented girls. But there was something about her that you have this little, I don't know what it is, it's a barb in the back of your brain that goes, I'll bet that's her. And you stop yourself getting too excited because it's unfair on everybody else, and you should go through the whole process. And maybe you're wrong anyway. Maybe you're just falling in love with a beautiful girl.
Not a bad thing.
No bad thing, and it happens in life occasionally. But I kept thinking, I'll bet that's her. And I'd had the feeling twice before. Once with the girl in Trainspotting, Kelly MacDonald. I'd seen her in a room, and I thought, I'll bet that's her. And once with a little kid in Millions, where I thought, I'll bet that's him. And each time, so you don't get it every time, but each time I've had it, I stick to it.
What about Dev,
Well, I determined to cast everybody there in Bollywood, out of Bollywood really. And, but the young guys who are kind of 18 and getting into the industry there, they're talented, they have to look a certain look, and it's muscles. They have to look ripped. So they're in the gym the whole time, and they're building these bodies which are completely disproportionate to the rest of their being. You know, you kind of think, that's not right, it just doesn't look right. And I didn't want this kind of hero sitting in the big chair on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You could see this guy's gonna come out fighting. I wanted a guy who appeared to have odds stacked against him. You know, he looked lonely, vulnerable, fragile. And my daughter said to me, why don't you watch this guy Skins? And there's this guy in Skins, which is a TV show in the UK, which she watches, she's 17. And I watched him in it, and he was good, he was funny, and he had real presence. And I met him, and he was terrific. He was very serious about the craft. You could tell he wanted the chance to do something more than goofing around. And the only problem was his mum, because she came everywhere with him. And you thought, listen, I said to him, listen, I'm casting you as a romantic lead. You can't bring your mum, you know. Because and she's very protective. And anyway, she backed off eventually, of course she did. And he emerged. And that's what the moment you're waiting for, is you're waiting for them to emerge. And you're waiting for the moment, the first moment where they contradict you. And that's really important.
I think I speak for everybody when we just want you to keep doing what you're doing. Danny, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Good things just got better. Introducing an all-new third hour of Good Morning America.
Welcome to Good Morning America Now.
Good Morning America Now. Good Morning America Now.
On ABC News Now.
Get your Good Morning America now at abcnewsnow.com.